Tales of Xillia will always be special to me, as it was the first Tales game I ever played and also encouraged me to play as many games as I could in the series. It was a great way to start my Tales journey, and to this day it's still among my favourites in the series. Released in the West in 2013, Xillia was the 15th Tales title and the second on the PS3. It also spawned a sequel which was set a year later, but that's the story for another day. If you're after an addictive JRPG with a solid story and fast, exciting, action-focused combat, then Xillia is definitely worth a shot. Before we get into it, if you like this review, it would help me out if you hit the like button and also subscribe for loads more RPG content from both the past and current generations. Alright, this is why Tales of Xillia is worth a play for all JRPG fans. Xillia's story begins in the town of Fenmont. Jude, a young medical student, becomes curious when his professor mysteriously disappears, so he decides to investigate a military facility for answers. And by investigate, I mean break into. On his way, he encounters a mysterious girl who has her own reasons for investigating the building to destroy a weapon of mass destruction. Of course, this just doesn't roll well with the authorities, so things immediately start to pick up when they become enemies of the country and are forced to flee. From here, it is twists and turns galore, with the plot continually pulling out the surprises. Most of the time when RPG characters say, "We've come so far," they really haven't, but by the end of Xillia, it really does seem like the epic journey that it's meant to be. Tales of Xillia certainly delivers in the story department, and this is enhanced by the 2 points of view that the story can be told from. At the start of the game, you can choose from either Jude or Mila, and this will have a slight impact on the narrative in terms of the scenes that you can view throughout the game. It won't change the major plot points, but it will fill in some gaps and provide additional information that you'll miss if you only play through the game once. To complement this addictive narrative, Xillia hosts an awesome bunch of characters. To start with, they may seem like generic archetypes seen in countless other JRPGs, but they are very well fleshed out, and it's evident that Namco put a great effort into this. But let's be honest, that really isn't surprising for a Tales game. From Jude, the promising medical student with a heart of gold, to Mila, the mysterious woman who claims to be the lord of all spirits. Then there's my favourite, Elvin, the stereotypical badass who has more secrets than the US government. And what's the point of a great group of heroes without someone trying to stop them at every turn? What I loved about Xillia is that you're not clearly told who the main antagonist is. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of enemies that come and go, but they each have their own beliefs and the justifications for their actions are all entirely plausible. I genuinely really liked the enemies, with the exception of Agria, whose sole purpose seems to be to annoy the player.
Your expression, it's priceless. I love the look of fear in your eyes.
Now, a big staple of the Tales series is the skit system. If you're out of the loop, skits are conversations and they teach you a lot about the world and the characters within. While viewing these are optional, I don't see why you would want to skip them, as they can be hilarious. I'll even go as far as saying that on a whole, the skits of Xillia are probably my favourite from the entire Tales series. It also helps that they're all fully voiced with a great cast of voice actors.
Hey Alvin, why is Tipo always talking about bazongas? What does that even mean?
Oh, he finally asks. It seems you're ready to take the first steps towards becoming a man.
Why do you have to make everything so weird? Forget I even asked.
Bazongas are the burning fire at the heart of manhood.
Rowan?
Jude, there are times to play it cool, but a man who fears his own passions is no man at all.
Yes, exactly what I was trying to say.
I'm not even sure I know what we're talking about.
Then you will never know bazongas. You have to want it, Jude. You have to need it.
Then teach me about bazongas.
I can barely hear you. You have to mean it.
Teach me about bazongas!
Whoa! Don't go shouting things like that!
Don't scold him, Leia. I read about this in a book. It's called Puberty. We're supposed to be understanding and supportive.
Tales of Xillia takes place in Riza Maxia, set in a time where tension is high between the two countries Rashigal and Aljul. The game itself looks good by PS3 standards, and there's an impressive number of towns to explore that each show evidence of different cultures in both the way they're visually presented and the way the citizens act. Exploring these cities was a lot of fun, and I loved the incentive to return to each town multiple times, whether it be for new events, side quests, or skits. The praise that I'm giving ends here. The rest of the world is seriously lacking in quality and polish, and this is particularly particularly evident in the 5 port locations that look identical to each other. In a game of such high quality, certain experience hindering aspects really stand out, and this is one of them. Another is the fields that link all of the locations together. These fields are just so generic and lifeless with a complete lack of character. Running through them and collecting the items was visually unengaging, and this was disappointing. Xillia's dungeons and dull field environments are full of visible monsters, and running into these beasts will initiate a battle. There's no requirement of brain power to dodge the enemies here, as you can get through every single field location without even coming close to initiating a battle. When you actually choose to get into a fight, chances are that you'll just breeze through it. You see, the difference in difficulty between the enemies and the bosses is so large that it's impossible to gauge where you're at based on the field encounters. Fortunately, most of the time you will want to fight enemies purely for the enjoyment of the action-packed battle system. It's fast, full of different mechanics, and best of all, it's fun. It's also very difficult to master, even by the end of the game. You can control one character at a time and run around mashing X to unleash basic attack combos when near an enemy. Pushing the circle button in combination with the direction will initiate an art at the expense of TP. In addition to this, you can link your characters together. This will allow them to combine their powers and unleash more powerful attacks, which adds a nice dimension to the battles. This system is fast and furious, but its difficulty is let down by the ease in exploiting enemies' elemental weaknesses. Doing so is a no-brainer due to the fact that the game tells you what the weakness is simply by selecting the enemy. This is like taking a multiple choice quiz with the answers written on the whiteboard. If an enemy is weak against fire, you will know that from the very start of battle, and you will employ the following strategy. Spam your fire-based attacks and link solely with the ally that has fire combo attacks. Exploiting weaknesses is basically the only strategy that I adopted, and this makes the game very easy at times. I wish they would have made us both discover the weaknesses ourselves and reduce the weaknesses that the enemies had. In addition to the replayability created through the initial selection of Jude or Mila, the individual combat mechanics of each character is another huge incentive to play Xillia multiple times. To elaborate, each of the 6 characters have their own unique special battle ability that will greatly alter the playing experience. For example, Jude is a sneaky little devil who's able to pivot around his enemies if a dodge is timed correctly. Elvin, on the other hand, is able to charge his weapon for greater attack power. You may be thinking, I'll just alternate everyone in a single playthrough. Wrong. Memorizing the button combinations for arts as well as their links with other characters was hard enough to master for just one character. After 50 hours of game time, I didn't even come close to memorizing them all, especially since you're given very little time to stop and think in the heat of battle. It's a lot like trying to remember lengthy combos in Mortal Kombat. Some people can do it and some people can't. I cannot, and for this reason I stuck with one character through the majority of the game. I am not saying that this is a bad thing. In fact, the complexities here is something that I really enjoyed. Building your characters for battle can be done in 2 ways, using the Lilium Orb system and through equipment management. The former is like a simplified version of Final Fantasy X Sphere Grid. You can choose to allocate your orbs, which are earned through leveling up, over 6 core statistics. The interesting thing here is that when you create a rectangle shape with your activated orbs, a new ability will be unlocked. This progression system works well, but in the end, each character will basically end up the way they were designed to, such as Elvin never being good with magic. Choosing which skills to equip, however, provides some level of variation, but again, at the end of the game, you'll be able to equip just about every skill due to having an excessive amount of these points. This system is quite basic and doesn't require much thought. It does its job and nothing more. I would have liked these growth mechanics to allow for a little more personalization. Another system worth mentioning is the shops. The majority of equipment you obtain will be purchased in these shops, and this is a lot of fun. Each shop type, such as food, items, weapons, armor, and accessories, will begin at level 1. To get better equipment and items from them, you'll have to find certain items around the world and donate them to these shops. Each item has a different value, with some being more valuable to certain types of shops, so managing this and selling items at the right time is very important. This system works surprisingly well and creates a good sense of achievement when you unlock new items and equipment. Tales of Xillia was the first Tales game I played, and to this day, it's still one of my favourites in the series, perhaps only second to Berseria. Xillia's strong twisty-turny plot and interesting characters was the highlight of my experience. At times, when I thought I had things worked out, I'd be hit with a twist that I did not see coming. For this reason alone, Xillia is worth playing. While the world is mostly interesting and full of life, I felt that certain duplicated locations and the field designs impacted this immersion and was far from the high standards seen everywhere else. The complexities found within the combat system create some very fast-paced, exciting battles, even if it's a little easy most of the time due to the game basically telling you how to win. I am a big fan of Xillia. What did you think of this game? Is it one of your favorites in the series? Let me know in the comments. This was Hellfire RPGs. Thanks for watching. If you like this, hit like and sub for more RPG content. Also join me on the socials. See you next time.